Hello and welcome to the Heroes Global Championship. This is the EU region. My name is Trixler, and to my left, Coloris. How are you, man?
Doing good. It's the final day for me in a long road. I expect it to be here for 2 weeks. Got slightly extended, but I'm very happy.
I'm very happy as well, man. The last 5 weeks have been a pleasure to be here with you. We have 2 more games, though. 2 more best of 5s for Coloris to cast, and that means there are more chances for more core rushes to fail, so we should have an exciting day. Let's go ahead and check out our standings for Europe and where we currently stand within all of our teams. At the very top, Misfits has secured the spot at 7-0. What legends! Right behind Fnatic and Dignitas will be going to Katowice, but we will be able to watch Dignitas today. We'll also be checking out beGenius here, who is currently at the number 8 slot here in the standings.
Yeah, so I get to watch 2 of my very favorite teams today battle it out with 2 others here. Excited for that. Obviously, Dignitas being my boys with the Brits in, because again, Brits are no good at video games. So it's a very high surprise that we actually do have 2 that are very good somehow. And then, of course, Team Expert, who have always looked to try and rise up the ranks, taking that 4th spot currently. But I think for all of these teams across the board, moving into the next phases here of HGC Europe, I think they're all going to rise in competitiveness very quickly. Yeah,
it's going to be a glorious day having those matches set up for us today. Also, we have more matches over in North America, but we get to watch beGenius as well. beGenius right now they are really filling out that 8th slot, right? We talk about it. There always has to be someone that's 8th right now, and beGenius is currently down there at the very bottom. There is a chance it could go 0-7, especially against a team like Dignitas, but there's still positives. You and I will talk about those glimmers of hopes that can be available for those teams. And of course, Synergy, which they're 1-6 right now, but I feel like they should be 3-4 or something, or 4-3, just by the way they play. They're a team that I would describe as volcanic. They seem to have these rumblings, these moments where they could explode and be amazing. Let's go ahead and check out the schedule for today. This Saturday will be the last day in week number 5 for us here. As remember, we don't have any matches tomorrow, but today's matches are going to be spectacular. Later on, Synergy and Expert will face off. North America will have Tempo Storm and the Superstars competing. Later, Team Freedom and Team 8. But our first match of today, Saturday, February 18th, there'll be Dignitas facing off against beGenius.
So this is a good one, I think, for obviously Team Dignitas to continue to rise up in terms of the standings, getting themselves a good score further on. This is another, for me at least, looking at how beGenius needs to approach this, another kind of learning experience. We spoke about it at length, not only yesterday after broadcast, but also this morning, about how beGenius now, currently in that 8th spot, needs to look at everything as learning processes, trying to draw as much from the other top teams, the big 3 or some to name, there to actually push them to that next level. They definitely have a good foundation, but they need to just assimilate a lot of information from a lot of angles and then just apply it to their own gameplay instead of finding their own flair. Because unless you're a team expert or something like that,
steal some flair.
Yeah, exactly. Steal some flair.
Nothing wrong with copying and pasting, man. I did all the time Microsoft Word. beGenius and Dignitas, of course, will be facing off. Let's hear what they have to say.
Very excited against Dignitas because 2 French players in Dignitas, and I really want to beat other French in this league.
So beGenius is a very interesting team. Obviously, they have 4 French people and 1 Russian. So it's kind of weird they actually communicate in English, and I think that's a pretty big disadvantage. They had a fantastic understanding of the meta and they were strong players during the qualifiers, but I'm skeptical whether they will be able to keep that form up.
They're pretty good. They're giving a lot of experience to EU region, and we do as much as we can when we play with them.
beGenius, they're kind of a rival to me actually, because I was trying to qualify with EE, Team EE, and we got knocked out by them in the finals. Pretty big blow, so it would be nice to hit them back a little, I would say.
So Bakery stated that Dignitas and beGenius had a good, solid understanding of the meta. beGenius in particular a few weeks ago, but I feel like they haven't evolved since then. One of the main linchpins, one of the things that's really holding them from succeeding, in my opinion, is that they continue to pick Tychus like crazy as one of their first pickups. 65% pick rate, 7% win rate. This is a team that needs to find moments that they are having success and just expand upon it. And right now, the only success they have is when they pick up Leeming with Kirvois. 2 wins. have been done here by Li Ming being picked up for them. That's the only time they have won here in the HGC. And just to give you a comparison here, Kirvois and Mene, both the Li Ming players for both our teams.
Yeah.
Going to be our player comparison for today. I want to see more Li Ming from Kirvois.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's really the standout hero for their team during this process, and obviously these two players being on the opposite teams here, as you can see. But the thing is that his Li Ming has been standout, and it has allowed him to hashtag pop off.
Yeah.
You know, we've seen some hashtag popping off from Kirva when it comes to that Li Ming. It hasn't led to the full success of the team just yet, or whatever. But one thing that I want to say, aside from all of these statistics and stuff like that, is what Zelia said towards the end of that interview. He was previously on, I can never say this properly, Excelente Elección. I can't do this.
Double E's, E squared.
Double E squared. And that roster at the time was a fantastic roster.
Yeah.
You know, some of the very cream of the crop in Europe was on that team. And beGenius was able to trump that team during the qualifiers. That kind of shows where beGenius are in terms of the European meta, in terms of how they stack up against some very strong adversities in comparison to like their opposing teams. It's just, again, they haven't quite found their stride here in HGC just yet, which they could down the line if they're able to avoid being relegated in Crucible.
Yeah, it just comes down to whether or not they are on point with their meta, and just right now it's just not quite working out for them.
Yeah.
Let's go to the battleground. Where are we going for game number 1 here in our best of 5 series? Bans will now be shown. Our teams each get to choose one ban, so Bractus Holdout will not be picked up. Warhead Junction will not be used here as well. First map of the day will be Sky Temple. beGenius selects it. So, hoping that they have some ball strategy here.
Sky Temple. All right. They have options, right? We've seen how Sky Temple has played out in the European region. They could use the good old runaway tactic of, we're going to get our globals, we're going to just avoid fights and just try and control the temples. Or they could go down the Li Ming path of saying, actually, we don't mind fighting. We can try and synergize with Li Ming, maybe pick up something like a Varian on Danatan, try and get those combos going down for Kirva to, again, hashtag popping off. But I don't know if Dignitas will allow that because they like those same kind of heroes.
Yeah, Dignitas is one of the top 3 that doesn't play as much double warrior as you would think.
Yeah.
They've only played about 20% of their matches. Actually, about 40 to 45% of their matches have been one warrior, one melee assassin, and one support.
And oftentimes when we do see that 2 warrior, it's actually Arthur's coming in.
Yes.
So there's significant amounts of lockdown for them to be able to put pressure on. And Team Dignitas is going to start off with an ETC ban to try and force out Danatan. And it has been one of his most consistent warriors as a go-to.
Yeah, and it's also consistent for Dignitas to pick up their flavor of the first pick, which has always been Malfurion. They've been picking Malfurion 60% of the time, first pick.
Yeah.
They always go for the Malfurion, and then it starts to fall off a little bit. ETC and Tyrael start to follow up for them. But Dignitas gets their Malfurion, and now beGenius this side. I do not want to see a Tychus first pick from them, because that is just a path for a possible disaster for them. They're so heavy into their first picks.
As much as we've talked about Kirva and Li Ming, would you like to see maybe a Falstead for Arakeen? Is that probably, as much as he's had a bit of a rough HGC Europe, is that where you think that some strength will be here for him?
Would love to see Falstead here, especially with it being Sky Temple, considering the battleground. From there, I wouldn't mind seeing them pick up Rhaegar. Both our teams that we watched today, beGenius and Synergy, haven't put too much thought process into putting their supports higher on their draft picks, and I think that might be one of the problems for them, is they're not paying attention to their Malfurion and the Rhaegars that are so powerful in today's meta. There's the Haka, which is another setup for those globals.
Yeah, we could quite happily see Tank FTW on that, which could give them a double warrior setup. It's rare that we've seen Danatan on that Dehaka.
Yes, that's what I was going to point out. This is new already. beGenius is adapting slightly here. They have picked up Dehaka as their first pick, and this has not happened very often for them. So they're watching their teammates, they're watching their opponents here, and they're learning. Wow, even more change-up for them. I like it. It's kind of odd to see Varian this early. Double Warrior too, because you kind of lose out on Rhaegar in the ban process, but hey, we have 2 incredible strong tanks, probably some of the best in HGC without ETC being available.
It makes me think now, if Team Dignitas doesn't want Li Ming themselves, that will almost certainly be their ban. Because it goes so well with Varian. We kind of theorized the idea of it just before. And that's where we believe that beGenius is going to find some of their success.
And that's where beGenius starts to have problems is in your drafting phase, you have to make sure you hide some strategies. You can't expose things too often. Getting Varian and Dahaka here is painful because you set up that possible ban phase setup already for Dignitas. Dignitas can catch up on this early. It's different, it's great variety, but maybe holding off Variant until the second phase would have been better for them.
It's also kind of a denial to, I mean, I know that JPL is probably now going to end up in Tyrael in this rotation.
Oh, 100%.
Because if you're beGenius here, you're saying, if you don't pick up Tyrael now, we are going to then ban it, and then Jay is on one of the warriors that he's played least of. The 3 warriors he's played is Tyrael, ETC, and Varian, all HGC long, and as you can see, that trifecta has now been rounded out. They had to pick it up here. Likewise, Falstad is great for Dignitas on this map.
And Falstad, too, doesn't really reveal what we're going to see from Snitch/Mane. Both those can play that hero. We've seen it multiple times already in the HGC. Bala being highlighted as a ban for beGenius. Not sure I would go that route. Bala has been played a few times by Dignitas, but not really one of their major pickups.
The thing is that there's been this little variance where Mene has liked Jaina, but also Vala from time to time.
True.
So I don't mind it. It just means to me that they don't mind going up against, say, for example, a Jaina, and then I don't know what Zayla is going to be on just yet. We may see like a unsupported Tracer. I don't, obviously Malfurion is on the other side, but I mean like without proper shielding. So Tychus is going to be the ban for Team Dignitas. Not really too many surprises there. It's been an absolute staple for them. But they didn't focus Li Ming. So now I think Li Ming just gets picked up.
I wonder, do we see a Medivh now then, with Tychus being banned out? Obviously, with Varian being picked up here, you know that we're going to go for Li Ming. beGenius, again, the only time they've won is with Li Ming. So Dignitas needs to have tools available to deal with that comes their way. And Medivh can be one of those pickups.
Unless they want to do something crazy. Unless they want to, I know this sounds a bit odd, but unless they wanted to go down what we saw yesterday from Trick Esport, where they want to try out Tyrande, because Kirva has actually played it before during HGC Europe so far. It was one game that we saw it, and technically it could work, but it will be Li Ming. So they're not going to go down the other route that we theorized. It's just going to be the Li Ming that we originally thought about.
And there's that Rhaegar being picked up. So there we go. beGenius has their foundation. I think Ragnaros could be a solid 5th pickup for them, but let's see what Dignitas gets here first. Greymane could be an option. We've seen Snitch play it once, I believe, here in the HGC, play Greymane.
Yes, with the Tyrael. It works out for them, definitely.
Wouldn't mind seeing a second warrior. However, Dignitas doesn't normally run that, but Arthas can be strong here against Varian and Dahaka in particular. Also pretty tanky against Li Ming, whether she gets decent poke, but with the Army of the Dead, you're good to go. Greymane Arthas wouldn't be too bad of a pickup.
Greymane Arthas, yeah, definitely could be a thing, because they know that they're going to have to, at least when the Varian stun comes in, they need something to dissuade Li Ming from doing much.
Yep.
I mean, they could go down an Anubarak path, but I don't think that's going to be the case. They haven't really played that at all here in HGC Europe. There's validity to it against Li Ming.
Ooh, Zebo Arthas.
Okay.
Zebo continues to get more popular amongst the top 3 here.
Yeah.
In HGC Europe. Now, 5th pick, Ragnaros is still available for beGenius. Is that your final slot? I'm trying to think of other pickups you can enjoy. I wouldn't mind seeing an auto attacker here. I want something with aggression.
It has to be something ranged, or Zul's not amazing on this map. They could go Sylvanas. I mean, it's not a massive amount of damage. I'm thinking about Arakine's hero right now.
Yeah.
And he's normally on the Falstad, Tychus. We've seen him on Vala, Zul, Sylvanas. So either they go for some weird triple warrior thing, or Sylvanas or Zul. I don't think Zul is the right option for this map. So maybe Sylv could be the way. But
yeah, Zul's difficult to pull. I think I'm there to comply with your decision on that one.
What do you think about Sylv?
I think Sylv could work. You get some flip push going, you can get forts going, you can slow down the eventual level 20 and Zebo hits, you can push into these multiple warriors relatively well, you can drop off your shadow daggers. I think I like Sylvanas, but it's Sergeant Hammer instead.
So we haven't seen them play that at all during HGC Europe, right?
Not Hammer, not for beGenius.
No.
Varian, we've seen it once before, but this is a different draft for beGenius. Okay, let's take apart Dignitas beGenius not being here and just focus on beGenius.
Yep.
This draft, game number 1, is completely different from what we've seen the last 4 weeks. And this is a positive in my book. I don't care if they come out with an 0-3 right now. This is success in my eyes.
Yeah.
They're changing up how they adapt against their opponents, and they're willing to try different strategies, which is important to be successful.
I've just seen who's playing Hammer, and I didn't expect that.
Who's playing Hammer?
Danatan.
What?
So interesting thing is that I kind of wanted a Sylvanas in terms of like who was actually going to play it out. Hammer kind of fits the same role, but brings more to the sustained actual chunking damage towards the team fight. If you're able to, the auto attack build is very strong. That we see from them, not necessarily sieging up in a team fight and then just getting auto attacks on towards a hero. And then if they get a kill, then yes, they can propel themselves forward in a similar vein to how a Sylvanas can when it comes to that structural damage. Whether or not that happens, though, we'll see. But Danatan is on Hammer.
They do have a lot of upfront damage here. You have your variant combo into Li Ming, which has become a standard, but now you have the compounded effect of Sergeant Hammer with focused attack.
Yeah.
And as we go to later stages, the Giant Killer, all those auto attack based talents being picked up, it gets that much more stronger. So they have setup, and they have aggressive tendencies that are available to them. It's all about being able to coordinate it against a team like Dignitas that is very good at just holding on to the late game. We always talk about it when it comes to these top three. They are so good at picking whatever compositions they want and just holding on. They don't lose too much. They're able to maybe lose a keep here and there, but they know how to come back in the late game scenarios. beGenius needs to be aggressive early, invade a lot, make sure to hit these Varian Li Ming Sergeant Hammer combos, especially after level 4.
Yeah. Have you seen the film Fury?
Yes.
The tank film? Yeah?
No.
No. What? Wait, what other Fury were you thinking of?
I don't know. I was thinking of an anime, actually.
Never mind.
Let's get ready for game 1.
That's acceptable.
Best of 5 series here. Sky Temple. Let's move on in here to our series. Dignitas taking on beGenius. There's an anime with the Fury character that just jumped out of my brain there. But nonetheless, let's go ahead and move into it. Game 1 here. Unstable to the far left will be in the blue as Rhaegar. Danatan will be showing off Sergeant Hammer. A big change-up for beGenius. Erekine will be on the Varian. Kirwa, obviously, going to be on Li Ming. And then Tank for the win. Showing us Dahaka.
Danatan is my Brad Pitt, man. When it comes to Fury, he's my Brad Pitt. And then to the right-hand side, it will be Team Dignitas, Bakery on Malfurion, JPL going to be on Tyrael. We have Snitch on Nazebo. Next up will be Mene on Falstad. And finally, to round things out, Zalia on Arthas. And I've got to say, I do like the switch up from beGenius. It was very clear that for Erekine, he's had a hard time in HGC Europe. Being on a warrior means that he's a little bit more sustainable here.
Yeah.
I'm really curious to see how Danatan's going to do on the hammer, though, because that was very unexpected for me.
Yes, it was. Obviously practicing a lot here, trying to be the damage dealer for his team. Erekine, again, putting him on Varian is relatively a solid change-up. All you got to do is make sure you get on positioning and get the engagement and call out to your team. So if communication's on point, you can do it well.
I feel like we're in the hammer time brawl. He's gone ambush.
Oh.
So and everyone goes ambush in that hammer time brawl. Where all of a sudden there's a siege tank next to you and he does like 400 damage. So that's an interesting choice. Just will be invisible and 100% extra damage will be dealt from that first shot when he comes out of stealth. So stealth, and then boom.
Yep, quick damage there. You actually want to work in that cooldown as much as you can.
Yes.
See him siege up, siege down, just constantly get that extra damage available for the team.
Yeah.
Erekine in the top left here. This is actually a really solid foundation. Rhaegar is good at preventing full engagements because of that totem, and also Varian being here to slow down the full aggression. So as long as Danatan does not burn his thrusters, he's fine.
Yeah, it's a great point that you make and something that we should elaborate on a bit. So obviously Hammer is very, very vulnerable when in siege mode. If you take ambush, then in theory, you can actually get really sizable damage onto buildings quite quickly and safely, because you're only having to siege up once for the value of 2 shots, and then you just back on out and you're happy. So already you can see one tower gone down, in thanks to Danatan's use of ambush as a talent to begin things off.
Well, Falstad and Dahaka will hold the bottom lane, continue their soaking. At some point, maybe making a play to move towards the middle lane here. Erekine is in the front line, taking some damage, but with unstable. Keeping him stabilized on the back here, he will keep him alive for now. Now, level 4 is about to hit. That's where beGenius kind of turns on. Focus attack. Warbringer will be the choice between the Varian Sergeant Hammer combo. Li Ming continues to sit in the middle, but for right now, it's just a 1-for-1 trade. And honestly, against a Hammer, a 1-for-1 trade in the early game around a temple is usually the best trade you can get.
Yeah.
Your value that you're going to get against that hero is by soaking other lanes. And Dignitas has been doing that already.
Now, one thing that Dignitas does have to be careful about, as always, is the Varian stun into the Li Ming. But we even talked yesterday about the potential of Hammer Napalm Strike with all the follow-up damage onto that stun as well. You're then stood in the Napalm Strike. It's doing a lot of extra damage to you. So there is definitely good room for blow-up here for beGenius.
Yeah.
Whether or not Tyrael and Arthas as a sustainable front line with good damage behind them. Let that happen, though, is another thing. That's a lot of damage on the side of, and a lot of control on the side of Team Dignitas.
Yep, and that cleanse at level 7 makes it much better for Dignitas. All they have to do is make sure that they play around that cleanse timing. Obviously, as we've talked in the past, Varian can usually get off 3 Warbringer charges off for the duration of a cleanse being down. So normally what happens, you have a Warbringer, charge into somebody, cleanse comes out in a fight, and then the opposing team starts to play much more safer, and that's where you take an advantage somewhere else, where you get aggressive because they don't have that cleanse available.
These rotations are really good, though, by beGenius.
Yeah.
And the hard camp timing is different from Dignitas. Not the normal hard camp timing that you would see to try and exploit the top lane while that temple is being sieged down towards, or at least taken down towards the bottom. So I liked beGenius's efforts with this easy camp, but it was cleaned up very quickly by Team Dignitas. They know what they're doing.
Yeah, this is a strategy from Dignitas to just get pressure alleviated for now. You're trying to hold off till 7, level 10. So you grab the Night Camps earlier, that way you don't have to worry about it. That way you can set everyone up in the bottom to make sure when Sergeant Hammer does have a rotation come down, you're already fortified. So it's much harder for Hammer to move into the temple. The bad news is Dahaka can just rotate top, and Hammer can come down anyways. So beGenius, as long as they rotate appropriately, can maneuver their way down there.
You see, this is the timing that I was kind of expecting to come out. Unstable's just going to buy his time with this. Now, what's interesting is they're not as likely to get as much value out of that because the fort's already down, and that hard camp getting towards a heat wall is debatable with a false stab there to try and clean up.
Yeah, the pressure that is put up for that Night Camp, though, is going to be helpful, as Falset has to stay up there longer, just to clear, or you can start losing your keep wall. So, beGenius does have the chance here to have a quick rotation from the Haka to get on that back line if Dignitas oversteps. Dignitas, you can see them positioning relatively safely. They have JPL in the front, get away because of Eldruins. Snitch and Bakery are the main targets for Dahaka, but they have their turrets already saved down here in the bottom right, so they're good to go. Here goes that rotation. Cleanse comes out immediately. JPL will be able to escape. Falstad started to set up for a fly down, but his teammates were able to get away safely, so he clears up top, and then they can make a rotation soon.
It was a good Eldruin smite out for Jay. Now, whilst I liked beGenius's timing of the easy camp before, they didn't reinforce enough with it. Whereas Dignitas then with theirs said, okay, we're really committing to this Giants camp, so we're going to push down that wall and get quite a bit of damage. And Danatan setting up, though, and actually gets one shot there off on JPL that was quite severe, but Tank FTW going to be caught there. Not really very easy for him to get on through that zombie wall. Dignitas is controlling the space well, but this can't go on for too long because obviously beGenius is approaching 10.
Yeah, this is a breaking point Dignitas has identified for the opposing team. You come in now and you make the engagement. Erican gets a little bit aggressive here. Warbringer comes in, but he's overstepping slightly. Mene will be able to take out that fight there, take for the win, is starting to retreat as well. And Dignitas actually gets 1 kill here, and a majority of the shots on the temple. Looking for a little bit more, but you do have to be careful. As you alluded to, 10 is on the horizon for beGenius.
At least Dignitas with that kill have caught up a little bit. But the one thing for Arakin that he has to be very careful of is that, again, for all Varian players out there, you know this. Once you're in, you're in. There's not many ways to actually get out. And what's especially interesting is that because his build has not gone in a more parry-centric way at level 1 and 7, he doesn't, as much as Victory Rush, gives you a little bit of sustain, it's not quite the parry power that I feel that we normally see from him. And obviously he hasn't gone that way because he doesn't want to have Mortal Strike later down the line as often against the Malfurion, doesn't quite have the much effectiveness.
Yeah, and well on top of that too, hammering was actually picked up for Falset at level 1, as well as Ichigo being more spell damage characters. You're not going to get much value out of that parry. So identifying that, he switched up his build, but it is something you have to be careful of. Ichigo and Falset have easy damage against a variant card, and Dignitas identified that with their earlier draft here, and now they're set up to deal with Arakin if he is overextending at any point. Mene is in the top left here, looking for an engage. Falset's Mighty Gust is available, but with beGenius playing patiently here, he will not have the opportunity to grab that Mighty Gust. Rotations once again occurring for Dignitas, they'll make sure to stay level here. They are level 10, so now they do have their team fight. Sanctification being available, Armor of the Dead, Mighty Gust, Gargantuan. They control space well.
Yes, and all of that comes together to say that they control boss space well. So for beGenius, it's going to be very difficult to try and exert themselves on that boss location at any time unless they get 2 or 3 kills. Speaking of a potential kill, on towards Xaylia, Arakin very much so in the thick of things, trying to keep Xaylia alive here is Bakery, trying for a body block, doesn't quite get it, puts himself in harm's way, but beGenius content with just the one, don't want to extend too much. That's a nice pickup for them.
No heroics used there either. Falstad just stayed in top lane. He was called out by the team. Don't use your heroic. We'll go ahead and give it up here. We're going to lose 4 anyways. Ball set goes to the trade.
And this is perfect. Once you get 1 kill, what do you do with Hammer? Then you siege. That should be the golden rule for Sergeant Hammer at higher level play. Don't siege properly in a position where you're looking to go for a fort until you've at least got 1 kill. Then you know you're safe. Just like we saw them from Dignitas. So very good coming together by beGenius so far.
Dignitas looking to make a play here. JPL's on the left. All the team is starting to set up. Ballstead is looking aggressive too. His positioning kind of illustrates to me that he's ready to pounce if an opportunity arises. Dahaka will grab the temple in the middle. JPL now having the bottom temple. Arthas in the middle looking for Kirwa. Kirwa will get the ancestral heal. Automatic turnaround here. Warbringer in the taunt. Zelia low on health. Army of the Dead is available. He does pop it. Eric King on the left side here. Gargantuan chunking down Varian for the moment. Tyrael's still not here, and Dignitas has a very valuable trade.
Army of the Dead is great against Li Ming. I mean, yes, technically her combos will be able to blow up some of those ghouls and you won't get as much sustain as Arthas, but at least it's stopping damage from completely hitting you as an Arthas, or maybe even other members of your team. The last place Li Ming wants to take fights is in lane around minions, and you know, ghouls kind of just create that artificial minion wave, along with zombie wall as well. It's very annoying.
Yeah, and Arthas has his own sustain too. He's actually relatively tanky too.
Yeah.
Against a Li Ming, especially with those Army of the Dead helping out, so he can handle that damage coming their way. So you don't even want to throw orbs into that direction. So Arthas can be quite a pain to play against. Tank for the win. Hit with a hammering here, but the final shots do go to beGenius, and they're already getting heat damage here, controlling this early game, but this is where Dignitas starts to excel. 13, 16, 20. Every time you watch them in their matches, when they get to the late game, it's where they find the moments to make mistakes and punish heavily. beGenius so far has been playing pretty well in terms of macro game.
It's been, so far for me, the best early game of HGC Europe. I mean, they're looking in a very, very good spot against one of the big 3 so far here against Team Dignitas.
It's hard to look at this game right now and think this team is currently 0-6.
Yeah, I mean,
and it could be 0-7.
Welcome to Europe, where everyone's really good at the video game. It's nice.
It's unfair. I want to be good at the video game.
I do too.
Same.
Shame I'm a scrub lord.
Dignitas is putting some pressure on the top lane here against the Dahaka, looking to get a little bit of damage on that fort, maybe not trying to secure the full kill, especially due to the fact that JPL's in the bottom right, just watching for that boss. Sergeant Hammer, Varian, and Kirwa are here to set up for a 3v3. Snitch will get the aggression. Starts to hit on Erikine. Erikine holding his position here, but the big root comes out. Erikine maybe overstepping. Zelia on the rotation, and Varian falls.
Yeah, difficult for him to really hold that position for too long there against the entire might of Dignitas. As they're looking to chase down Kira, but thankfully he does have Illusionist, so he can blink, teleport even a little bit further away. Dignitas grab themselves the kill, look to establish the position, and 4v5, I don't mind them taking this boss at all. They've got Sanctification and they've got Gust. It's good control with also... No, they don't have Gargantuan. It's 40 seconds away.
And that's where a small positional mistake can cost beGenius so much in gold here. Boss goes down, bottom lane in trouble at the same time. 16 close for both our teams, but Dignitas suddenly takes a big momentum swing. They even look like it on the map. They spread out in the middle, spread out in the bottom. They have 2 pushing their lane here. Those giants should be cleared up relatively soon, but they are getting damage on the key wall. Fallstick goes to the top, and Dignitas just soaks everything here. They just know that soak is more important. They've already gotten the boss. That's their major win. Get to late game.
Yep, absolutely. So, nice and slow, steady pace now for Team Dignitas as they just, you know, lick their wounds. There is a bit of a skirmish on towards Snitch. He is in no man's land. Sorry, Snitch. Your stats have been fantastic all HGC Europe so far, but that was a little bit too far.
That was an oddball rotation that normally wouldn't happen, but because it was so oddball, it worked.
Yeah.
With a false set in the top lane, 2 in the middle, 2 on the bottom, aiding that boss, Snitch just went ahead and maneuvered his way to grab the giants, and beGenius caught onto it. And they're catching more, too, here. Here's a couple of kills, and Kirwa going off once again here, getting 3 takedowns. JPL Sanctification slightly too late, but beGenius, again, realizing that they can't just sit back and not make plays. They have to make plays to win this game.
Yeah.
And they continue to do it.
That's crazy. Imagine if they hadn't lost Varian. Oh my god, Tyrael goes down as well. Imagine if beGenius hadn't lost Varian in the previous exchange, and then Dignitas hadn't got the boss. This could have easily been a boss for beGenius, and then them pushing bottom lane for huge damage, but so far, maybe they can do some damage to this keep, but Snitch is actually doing a very good job of defending there, using the zombie wall to block some of those Li Ming combos on towards the key.
Yeah, a great way of shaking off that slight disadvantage of losing a member and losing a boss here. They completely turn the game around and make it go back into their favor. A few members in the bottom already, Sergeant Hammer helping sneak down that key wall, so now they have an opening available to them. Dahaka continues to hold that top lane. And the more I watch Dahaka, in Europe, the more he just becomes a problem for teams constantly.
You mean a god?
Yeah, he's a
My
god.
second favorite hero.
He's a god for one team, a problem for the other one. That's for sure.
He is, yeah, he's a true nuisance. Very difficult to deal with. As long as you're keeping your brush stalker, as long as you're managing it well, say for example, you don't want to base and then always brush stalker back to the lane that you want to soak. Ideally, you want to walk there so that then you can then brush stalker into a fight if needs be. So those kinds of things are very important. And most people don't go Apex Predator at level 20 now, they go Essence Claws.
Yeah.
So you never have off time for that cooldown.
It almost feels like he's become a pseudo-Abathur in terms of the pressure. The pressure seems to be equal. He's able to soak just as much. Granted, he can't soak 2 waves, but he's another body that can jump into a fight.
Well, lore-wise, if you ask Dahaka about if he's better than Abathur, he will say yes, he hates Abathur.
Kalaris, ladies and gentlemen.
They hate each other.
Knowledge of Warcraft, knowledge of StarCraft. Give us a quick Diablo lore, real quick, real quick.
Not a clue.
Nephilim. I got you. Nephilim are the kids of the angels and the demons.
The kids.
The kids. They
Right.
spawned them.
Okay.
That's a fact.
Thanks.
It's truth.
That's
Dignitas here will hold the top lane, 18 to 17. We are equal footing in terms of levels, but map control, I would say slightly is an advantage of beGenius after they clear this middle wave.
because someone's going to tweet me. So they might not hate each other, but they definitely disagree with each other's methods and evolutionary process. I'm phrasing it properly so I don't get another tweet, because somebody questioned me yesterday on ETC and Samura, and Samura is clearly the lead singer. Why would there be any other Samura? Anyway, whatever. I know my law.
This guy. 19 to 18 right now, and beGenius is playing aggressive here. This is kind of where the question pops up to where, do we just wait it out? Do we just get 20 bottom lane and then go for a hard engage? Or do we just say Dignitas stop taking shots? Dignitas, knowing that beGenius is wrestling that question, has applied pressure here on the temple in the middle, which has allowed them to get heat damage. This is a good move by Dignitas.
Yeah.
They need to make a move soon or decide to escape.
The thing is whenever Dignitas tries to make aggressive moves now, they're going to be going up against graduating range from the hammer. So not only will graduating range and ambush create real big issues for them, but this is
a solid, this is a good play in my opinion. It pulls Dignitas away from the temple in the middle because they have to defend their keep,
Yeah.
or beGenius just takes away the keep. And if they get enough pressure here, they're going to hit 20 off of this wave and maybe the keep damage as well. So Snitch and the rest of the crew are forced to move over, but the problem is 20 is just now hit. Ooh, a big root though into a Howling Blast poke here from the Zebo.
And you can see why sieging up against 5v5 can be a little bit problematic. They have no problem going in there trying to lock down Danitan. Admittedly, some sustain came out for him. Level 20 is here, as you're saying, from that little aggressive move that they made.
Dahaka top, looking for Falstad. Falstad will barrel roll
But
away.
Imagine if Falstad was there to follow up the damage on towards that hammer with a Hammerang and Boomerang. That would have been potentially a dead hammer. So that's why there's 5v5. Even with graduating range sometime, if you haven't set up the entire radius, it can be problematic.
beGenius calling the bluff there of Dignitas to go in for that engage. It's really hard, high risk, high reward to have your Falstad fly down and maybe get caught out when it not being 20-20. You don't want to throw the game. Dignitas now finally hits 20. And this is where they can power up and go for equal fights. In fact, Holy Ground comes out, Kirval will teleport away. Poke comes in, JPL though takes the mercenary camp.
So as much as Nexus Frenzy on other heroes, you know, it's just mostly about the damage, getting that out there. Oh, anti-magic shout. Oh, there's so much to talk about. Oh, I love it. So as much as Nexus Frenzy, you know, is good for the big damage or whatever, it makes Hammer so much more safe. Because you get that little bit of extra range coming out. Here comes the boss fight though. Going on towards Arakin, trying to hold on to it, but it's not going to be safe at all. As the Gust comes out, Sanctification as well. They're just trying to blow up Dahaka on the backline. They get him here, and that's a big win for Team Dignitas.
Dignitas continuing to chase here a little bit in the middle, decides to go ahead and pull away from the chase and just aids the boss. Goes for a push. They already have Giants pushing from earlier. They have aggression on this keep wall, and beGenius, sadly, just cannot be put in a solid position to defend this. They have to set up with Sergeant Hammer. There we go. Finally, we'll see Jump, but the keep already down to a quarter health. Dignitas can sneak on by. JPL goes for the engage. Does he have Sync? No, he does not. He used it earlier.
Nice.
70-second cooldown on that. Malfurion has used Twilight Dream as well. Kirvois starting the poke, but the boss very healthy now. Going for the core. Mene as well will fly in.
They need to kill off the members of Dignitas here. Arakin actually does have Demoralizing Shout at level 20, so he can try and bring them down pretty quickly here and try and keep his entire team sustained. Nazebo's going to fall, but I don't think it's enough. beGenius will fall here in game number 1. They played a good one, but not good enough to topple Team Dignitas.
It always seems like the same story for Dignitas. The opposing team looks solid in the early and the mid game, but Dignitas, they're there. They're just holding on constantly, and then they get to the late game and they make one or two amazing plays that just shut down the game. It's kind of become so much of a theme that it might as well be a meme at this point, right? That Dignitas just wins the late game no matter what. All he did was get one pick on Airkeen. They grab the boss, and they just know the calculated risk of pushing in the bottom. They do enough pressure on the keep. They make sure a lot of the focus is coming their way for Nazebo. He positioned very aggressively in the back, and Falstead was on the right side, so you have to pick one of the two targets, and the one target they picked had Ice Block. If you would have gone for Falstead, you may have been in a better position, but then he has Mighty Gust, and they just kill him off.
Yeah, he's a slippery snake himself, to be honest with you. You're right. It seems like the big three just have mastery of the late game. Very difficult to really...
They know how to win.
Yeah, it's difficult to defeat them there, but it's difficult to kill them in terms of like find a fight. Obviously beGenius was ahead 2019, but they couldn't quite find that window that they wanted, and then by the time 20 comes along for Team Dignitas, they know exactly what they want to do with it. So yeah, difficult times there for beGenius.
Let's gear up for game number 2. beGenius taking on Dignitas.